So I'd just firstly like to thank Angus Australia for inviting me to come and speak today. You probably haven't heard of the company Vetoquinol, of which everyone struggles to pronounce, so if you're struggling out there, don't feel alone. I think as an organisation we're still trying to work out how to say it. It's a French-based animal company and it sounds great in a French accent, but I promise I can't do it. So thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Vetoquinol this year have sponsored Angus Australia in assisting them with all the AIs that occurred in the cohort 6 of the SIRE benchmarking project. And it gives me with great pleasure to be able to do that, because what we can actually do is generate some relevant data for AI in commercial beef herds and present that back to you. So I'll be presenting some of that information as I go through today. You're probably thinking, well, why would I be starting a presentation on artificial reproduction with a pen of feedlot steers? And I guess the reason that I'm putting this up here is to remind everyone that we're all headed towards the same thing. And at the end of the day, the reason why we are engaging in artificial reproduction is to produce beef, for no other reason. And I guess we want to try and keep that in the back of our minds as we go through and evaluate all the reasons and options that we have available. I learned how to do this recently, so I got a little bit excited, and I went through, I just Googled Angus studs and put it through a browser that shows me pretty much what you guys talk about. And really, all the big words there are the words that are more commonly used. And I think it's really pertinent to my discussion today, because we all talk about genetics, we all talk about production and high growth, and of course, being studs, there's a lot of talk about bulls. And this to me just reminds me that artificial reproduction truly does fit within your systems. Of course, this being stud, but I'm pretty sure this is relevant to commercial situations too. So I want to distill my talk down and the benefits of artificial reproduction into a really, really basic nutshell. And at the end of the day, I can see very broadly, there are 3 main things that actually are the reasons why we would engage in artificial reproduction. I think everyone would be aware that it's a very good tool for rapid genetic progress or change. But one of the other aspects that I think is sometimes overlooked is it can be used as a management tool. And I have some very good data explaining that out of the SIRE benchmarking project. The other thing that it can also be used for is to actually increase fertility. So I've got this slide up here, and my intention is not to be able to befriend my Angus breeders out there and tell you how wonderful you are, but I really want to make the point that the Angus breed is one of the best breeds, I feel, to be positioned to invest in artificial reproduction. And there's a very solid reason for this, apart from the fact that they do attract very good pregnancy rates. You are the largest register of beef cattle on breed plan. You have access to high-density DNA tests, which are very easily commercially available. And you are the single largest breed progeny test program ever in Australia. So what does this mean from an artificial reproduction point of view? It means that what you can do is actually make very good, reliable breeding decisions. It is an investment, and if you're going to invest, you want to make sure that you're getting at the back end of the program, you're getting exactly what you want. So I guess I'm just putting that there forward to you to say use your genetic tools, and it can actually pay off in the long run. And I guess this slide here to me is a nutshell as why a company as Vetoquinol, we wanted to support the SIRE benchmarking project, because we do believe in genetic improvement. So now getting into some of the more technical, detailed information, I'm very sorry for some of those people out there that might have a very good understanding of some of these concepts. I hope to bring some of you guys up to everyone up to the same level, and then just add a little bit more proof and a bit of data to base that on. Most people here have probably heard about fixed time AI, and probably less have heard about fixed time ET. But essentially it's the same concept, and the concept is that all females are inseminated or have an embryo transferred all at the one time. There is no need for heat detection, and activities occur at a predetermined time. So for those people that are busy, you can pre-plan 12 months out as long as you want, plug the dates into your diary and do those activities on those days. So it can become quite an easy tool in your toolbox, so to speak. It's very good for larger herd sizes, simply because there's not the need for managing those animals. It's just a mob treatment. Fixed time embryo transfer is a concept that I just want to flag. Again, no need for heat detection of the recips, but I think fixed time ET almost makes more sense than fixed time AI, because what you do is synchronise your recipients, and so then when they're presented for embryo transfer, your technician can go and actually choose the animals that have responded to the program and insert those embryos into those animals. So it's just another concept to fly out there. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on embryo transfer, but a lot of the concepts I talk about still apply. So what does this mean? It means 100% of your females are submitted to a program. It means that you end up with more calves because more animals are being inseminated. All females are joined on day 0 of the program, and I'll go into some data why this is really beneficial. And this ends up with more calves early in the breeding season. So really it's just a very simple concept and a very simple technology to apply. So now I'll get into some data. When you see the little logo up here, it's when I've actually extracted information directly out of the data set. And this is one herd that was in the cohort 6 of the benchmarking project, and this is actually the days to conception. So mating start date starts at day 0 and goes through to about 109 days in this herd. And you can see by the use of synchrony, day 0 we have, this herd I think was roughly 57% pregnant on day 0. That is unachievable through natural mating. The other cool thing about this, as I explained before, they're genetically elite calves. So not only do we have 57% pregnant on day 1, they all are, if you're making the right decisions in your breeding, are actually genetically elite. If we then extrapolate this to the end of the breeding season, you will end up with more calves by the genetically elite size than your natural mating. So to me, if you think about the area under the curve, this being all the days that you have cows pregnant, that easily extrapolates into more dollars. This is a slide that I've been using through my presentations for quite some time, and this is just a natural mating herd. It was a study done quite some time ago, and it's really, really basic. It's not rocket science. They basically just took a mob of calves at weaning and split them into basically the animals that were born in the first third, the middle third, and the last third. And funny enough, we have a 26 kilo difference between the top third and the middle third, a 26 kilo between the middle third and the bottom third, but this extrapolates into a 52 kilo difference between the calves that were born in the top third to the bottom third at the time of weaning. So again, this is not rocket science. These are just saying if your calves pop out early, funny enough, they're going to be heavy at the time that you wean them. So again, I'm not going to sit here and talk about concepts without providing a little bit of proof. These calves here were cohort 5, I think, of the benchmarking project. We were treating their dams in the cohort 6 program. And when I saw these calves be drafted off their cows, the first thing I did was got up on the rail with my phone and took a photo, because I think this demonstrates really clearly what fixed time AI can achieve. And if you look at the evenness of these calves out of those cows, and this is purely due to the fact that all these calves are born early in the breeding season. Of course, if they're all going to be by the one sire, again, they're going to be a little bit more homogeneous again. So this data here is weaning weights that were taken from the cohort 5, I think, data set. And these are weaning weights of calves from one herd of where the dams were the cows. And we can see here, these are the calves at weaning from AI, and they were all multi-sire, so there was lots of sires in AI, multi-sire natural joining groups of 1, 2 and 3. I acknowledge we have genetic influences here that are obviously going to alter the weaning weight. So what I've done is put the average sire EBV up on the board there for you. And admittedly, the AIs are marginally heavier. But, and the days that these weaners were, their age at weaning is also presented here. And again, you can see that the average age of your AI calves is going to be more, and again, not rocket science. But what's pretty impressive is the average of the natural mating versus the AI. So these are the backup bulls, were 38 kilos heavier by using AI. If we compare it to our closest EBV, we end up with 34 kilos. Now, in the current beef market, I'll let you guys extrapolate what that means to dollars. Of course, I don't have a natural mating comparison here to be able to compare because obviously this was a benchmarking herd. But in my opinion, this goes very close to paying for all of your AI activities, and your genetic improvement is just the ice cream on the top. So I guess this is where I feel that it really can be implemented as a management tool, and I'm quite excited to actually give you real data. These are the calves, the weaning weights from the heifers. Now, you will hear later in my talk, heifers generally do get a lower pregnancy rate than cows in AI. So we see that the benefit in this group of animals is less, but still there's still a decent 20 kilos benefit in this group of animals. So I guess we've got the kilos, which we can extrapolate directly into dollars, but I believe that even above that, there are a lot of intangible benefits that we often sometimes dismiss. Cows calve early. I've said that 1,000 times. But if your cows calve early, they're going to be easier to get in calf the next year. And you end up with fewer late calvers. And in seasonal mating systems, which you have, I'd say, majority in the south, not compared to the north, late calvers end up being cull cows. They generally end up popping off the system eventually. Even cohort. If you have an even cohort of calves, it's very easy to then make visual assessments of those animals. You're not comparing a calf that was born early in the season compared to late. And they are easier to get to market as a group because you have that homogeneous group. If you do calving surveillance in heifers or in any other types of animals, of course this is going to be condensed into a shorter period. So there's a lot of these other intangible benefits that I can't really put a dollar value onto, and I think from herd to herd, different people would put weights on each of these benefits. The other point I made earlier was that we can actually increase fertility through using fixed time AI. And the reason I say this is that you can actually induce animals to cycle and shorten their intercalving interval. This is another herd that was part of the Cohort 5 and Cohort 6 projects. And what they ended up doing is breeding their cows on a year-to-year basis 2 weeks earlier than the previous year. A lot of that was due to their current late breeding as it was. Now, if you put this into terms, if you ran 2 programs, 2 years of AI, you can bring your calving back. Well, it'd probably end up being 3, sorry, because you've got year 1, year 2, year 3. You'd bring your calving back at least a month, and you could continue to bring it back further and further over time. The very interesting part about this is this herd only joins for 7 weeks, and if you look at the season pregnancy rate, so by the time the AI and the backup bulls, very comparable pregnancy rates and very good. So these guys have used this technology as a management tool to increase their fertility and bring their calving forward. If you do look at the rates, there is a marginal drop in the pregnancy rates to AI. However, I do feel for the cows, this is probably a little bit of normal year-to-year variation. However, you will see the herd that the group that probably took the biggest hit was the first calvers. I don't think this is rocket science. Everyone tends to breed their heifers a little bit earlier to give those girls a little bit more time to be able to get back in calf. So this is probably a bit of an issue around this. However, I do believe that if these first calvers weren't treated, then they would have ended up being later and later calvers in this system where they're really trying to put the pressure on. So again, just a little bit of evidence in commercially run Angus cattle that demonstrates that these tools actually do work. So thank you for letting me go through, I guess, all the benefits and what have you. And the theme of my talk essentially is success through AI. So hopefully I've whet your appetite a little bit about artificial insemination. So now I just want to give you some tips for implementing AI in your herd, and hopefully you can take some of these away. I'd like to say that 100% of this, being an ex-academic, is based on facts and figures and what have you. Some of it is just experience and knowledge from going out and AIing and doing a lot of fixed-time AIs. So basically, at the end of the day, don't overcomplicate things. That's my biggest message to people, and I often see people trying to over-engineer AI programs, and because I sometimes think it makes them feel better if they just put a little bit, an extra handling in here, or we just change something that's in the protocol. The protocols that are prescribed are very, very well tried and tested, and they do actually work. So choose your program, work out what's best for you. I do preach fixed-time AI a lot because I do realise that it fits into many beef herds, but sometimes fixed-time AI may not be your option. So have the conversation with someone and work out what's best for your herd. Select and prepare your females. I can't stress this enough. A lot of people decide a week out to do their AI program. That will set you up for disaster. Plan 12 months ahead if you can, but give yourself plenty of times to be able to identify your animals that you're going to calve and what you want to do with them. Stick to the program, get your semen right, get the technician for the job, and remove your bulls. So if I just walk through these in a little bit more detail, I realise there's a lot of words on this slide, but as I said before, there are multiple ways to get genetics into your herd. Fixed-time AI tends to fit many beef situations, but sometimes it's not always the answer. The reason I say this, technicians only required on one day. In many beef operations, they're not doing their own AI, particularly in commercial settings. All activities happen at a prescribed time and you get your early calves. However, you do AI 100% of your females. If you're using really high valued semen or you're using semen that's rare, this may not be the option for you. Sometimes if you are an owner-operator with your AI technician, inseminating 100 cows in one day may not be what you're meant for, you know. So there's reasons that we do sometimes not suggest it. So, but I do, for most situations, it does seem to fit. I'll just run through the 3 classes of cows and my opinions on how to manage them. So the 3 classes being cows, multiparous, and when I say that, they're on their second calf or better, first calvers and maiden heifers. Cows that are multiparous, general rule of thumb, make sure they're at least 30 days calved before you start the treatment for synchrony. So therefore you're AIing at 40 days because it's normally about a 10-day program. That's the earliest. Try and aim to have your cows calving in body condition score 3.5. This gives them a little bit of latitude to lose a little bit of weight through lactation, also ride them through that peak lactation phase. Rising plane of nutrition. And one thing about cows is that lactating cows will always perform better than dry cows. I don't support the AI of dry cows because if they're dry, they're empty. Why have you got a dry, empty cow in your herd? But I do realise in some situations, drought, what have you, that those cows can float into your herd, but you will always go better with lactating. Beware of larger size bull calves. This is a extensive Angus herd up near Longreach that I implemented some fixed time in, and they had all these lovely big sappy bull calves on the cows. Funny enough, actually going into the herd, there was probably half of them pregnant. So if you've got big bull calves, just get them off. And please consider vaccination for diseases that you know cause reproductive loss. It's a lot of investment to go in and then realise there's something that you could have fixed. The first calving cows, I think everyone can agree that these class of animals always let us down, particularly when nutrition's a little bit poor. At the end of the day, if your cows are fertile from a natural point of view, they're going to be more fertile from an artificial reproduction point of view. So at least make sure they're 30 days calving, if not more. Again, the same concepts about rising plane nutrition. I do say that if your animals are a little bit backward and you want to AI them, preferentially feed them. Feed them, feed them. It's all about body condition score in this class of animals. They may not be cycling, so the fixed time AI synchrony can actually assist these animals to be able to increase. And there are other management tools such as calf removal at the time of AI, temporary calf removal, and ECG that can boost your results. If you can, avoid the use of protocols that have GnRH. I know this is a lot of lingo for you guys, but essentially estradiol benzoate programs in these classes of animals always tend to perform a little bit better. And again, the diseases for reproductive loss. I think these concepts actually apply for natural mating as well. If you've got a first calver problem in your herd, you might be able to consider setting them up for AI, even for a natural mating perspective, to try and help you out. Heifers, everyone loves to AI heifers because you don't have the issue with the calf. I do acknowledge that these animals, if you're really chasing genetic gain, these are the guys to get into because they're the younger animals. They're going to give you that benefit in genetic gain very quickly. My rule of thumb, as I said, not really based on academic, but normally a minimum of 280 kilos. And you don't want them too fat. I see so many fat heifers that people present and then they get despondent. They say, oh, they were in such good condition. Half the time your heifers can be too fat for AI and they don't respond properly to the program. We've found that, again, gut feeling, get them at about a body condition score 3 and you try and get them up to about 3.5 around the time of preg testing. So they're on that chasing, that rising plane of nutrition seems to work wonders. Make sure they're not pregnant. So many heifer herds, when you go in to synchronise them, the heifers are pregnant. Now, we can synchronise them. There's no problems with that. We can even go forward and AI them. But the problem with that is you're not going to get them in calf. Well, if anything, you're going to knock the calf out of them. And so you've actually damaged what you set up to do in the big time. So sometimes it's really good to get into your heifers about 2 weeks before AI and just screen them to make sure that you're only presenting empty animals. Again, avoid use of GnRH. We know heifers don't respond that well to it. Consider vaccination. As I said, they'll always give a lower result than cows, but I do agree they are easier to handle in the yards and they will give you that genetic gain if that's what you're chasing. Again, I'm not going to get up here and preach all these concepts without providing a little bit of proof. This is the overall results from the Angus sire benchmarking project in cohort 6. And funny enough, your lactating cows, second calf or better, have achieved approximately 60% to fixed time AI in very commercial run situations. The first calvers are sitting around about the 47% and the heifers were marginally lower. The other interesting thing I see in this is that there's very little variation amongst your multiparous cows, whereas with your first calvers we see a lot of up and down. My gut feeling is a bit of body condition score issues going on here. And heifers are always, and to this day I don't think any academic in the world can tell me why heifers perform worse to AI, or particularly fixed time AI, than cows. And I'm not saying don't AI them, I'm just saying if you're going to set yourself up for success, maybe pick your lactating cows. Some very quick protocols. As I said, one of my tips is stick to the program, and I guess by showing you these protocols, my intention is for you not to walk away and know them all in your head. It's more to understand that there are steps that go in place, and being able to identify these steps and stick to them is really important. Most protocols have 3 to 4 handlings. They usually start for fixed time AI, start with the insertion of a QMate device. At this time, they will get an injection. EU actually means that we can't use estradiol benzoate, so if you're in a non-EU herd, this will work for you. Inject prostaglandin and ECG, and at day 9, we give an injection of estradiol and you fix time AI in day 10. So this is really how you can just plug this into your calendar in advance. You just basically backtrack. And your vet or your artificial reproduction provider can supply all this for you. This also is an excellent ET recipient protocol. So if you're wanting to set up your livestock for recipients for fixed time ET or even heat detection, this works excellently and is commonly used in South America where they do a lot of embryo transfer. This program here is what we used in the Angus sire benchmarking project in the non-EU herds. And we actually, it's pretty much the same program, but we eliminated this day 9 handling. And that just means one less time that you have to run the cows through the yards. I'm proud to say that Angus cows respond really, really well to this protocol. Bos indicus less, unfortunately, where you probably don't want to handle them so much. But I do recommend this better for cows than heifers. And again, it comes back down to my point of GnRH. So if you're going to consider AIing heifers, maybe go to that extra mile of doing the 4 handlings, but your lactating cows certainly seem to win on this program. If you're in the EU situation, unfortunately, you are limited to the use of GnRH. We tend to get about 5, again, a little bit of gut feeling. We've also got some data from previous benchmarking herds that suggests that you get approximately 5% less in these cows. So I always recommend estradiol when you can use it, but of course I realise there's some limitations around this. A lot of people go out and just flat out recommend GnRH-based programs, and I guess I challenge them to come back to an estradiol that's generally a little bit cheaper and I know works really reliably, and I'll probably be shot down by some people that will say that, but I guess that's my opinion. So one thing that you'll notice throughout all of these protocols is the thing that's pivotal to it is the use of the QMate device. It allows a sustained release of progesterone, and what this enables is precise synchrony of ovulation. If you're going to AI all your cows at one time, you need them ovulating all at one time. So this is what this device does. Also, if you, again, wanting to have anestrus animals such as heifers, you can actually induce them to cycle with this device, and it's also an option that can be used in natural mating. It's got excellent retention properties and can be reused with the pods. And I guess it's these gills and the flow of the mucus that enables that progesterone to be leached out of that device. So really basic tips just to get to the end. Get your semen right. There is nothing to be gained in using poor quality semen, and we can do pre-assessments of semen before you go using it. If you're going to do a pre-assessment of the semen, make sure you do it on a batch-to-batch basis. It's not just one particular bull. Different batches can also be affected. And don't be afraid to push go towards morphology assessment. Pick the things that may not, just motility assessments sometimes alone don't tell the full story. So challenge your semen providers to make sure that they've got good quality control. Make sure the people that are handling the semen know what they're doing. There's plenty of on-farm tanks where the buckets get plunged up and down, which ruins the quality of semen over time. So these are the simple stuff that a poor quality semen can make a whole program be completely trashed in one session just because someone didn't do their quality control. Very similar with your technician. They can make a big difference, particularly if you're going to be engaging in like a big program. If technicians that are less experienced tend not to be able to handle the bigger numbers. If you can get hold of reputable sources, do that. If you don't have a reputable source or someone that needs to get their skills up, potentially then try and chop your programs down into fewer numbers to get it done. And one tip, and I'll give it to Angus breeders and the Angus breed, your bulls have very high libidos. The amount of times that I've dragged Angus bulls out of the scrub because we've had a mob of cycling cows is impressive. So I always say keep your bulls away, at least a paddock away, because I promise you a mob of cycling cows will bring them out of everywhere. And if you get a bull that jumps in with that herd, again, all your investment in getting that program up and going has been trashed completely. So I'll just bring you back to the beginning of when I said there's a reason why we all do this. And the reason is not because we enjoy AIing cows, although I do. It's really, we've got better things to do than that. But simply, AI and ET is just some of the tools that you have in your toolkit to be able to produce beef. And that's all that we're trying to do. Use your genetic tools to make good decisions. As I said, you have predictable tools, use them. Artificial reproduction can add dollars to your herd, even if it's just used as a management tool. Stick to the program. It is really simple. Don't deviate. Take 5 minutes to sit down and read your protocols. When your artificial reproduction provider gives you that, spend 10 minutes just studying it, ask the questions. And your multiparous cows will always give you the best results. However, I do understand that if you want to chase genetic gain or you don't want to have the calf issue in the yards, heifers could be a better choice. So I'd just like to thank you, and hopefully I have time for questions. If not, I'll be around certainly for the next 2 days.